what David and I believe Mayor Johnson had asked is to have us come and just give you a quick presentation on the project plans that we have for Treasure Island. There's obviously a lot of similarities in challenges between the site that we have on Treasure Island and the site that you're dealing with here in Alameda: transportation, seismic, public trust issues, the federal government, and then there are obviously some unique characteristics as well. And so I'll just jump in. I work in the mayor's office, but the mayor's office has been delegated by, we have an equivalent to ARRA, which is the Treasure Island Development Authority, and so all the work I do on behalf of the Treasure Island Development Authority. We selected as a private master developer partner about 6 years ago now a team that's called Treasure Island Community Development. So the project plans that I'll talk to you about are actually the product of a public-private partnership, just like you all are going through as well. So we think about, so the overall development program for the project is it's a mixed-use project, but it's primarily residential, sort of acknowledging that Treasure Island is never going to be a major commercial or office destination. It does have a commercial core component that is a combination of neighborhood serving retail and some visitor serving retail. There's always been a desire on the part of the city that the reuse of the island is not just a neighborhood, but it's actually a destination, whether for people from the city or from people visiting the city from elsewhere. There's a major open space component, which is consequent to the overlay of the public trust, the Tidelands Trust. We have some historic structures that will be reused. They're not as extensive as the historic district that you have here. We think about the project in terms of, at least at the city, on the city side, as being able to deliver public benefits to the city that the city doesn't have the resources, but for the value that is created by the land to provide, particularly in these fiscal times, but with Prop 13 and reduced federal funding. Sustainability has always been a focus of the project. If you compare it to another former Navy base in San Francisco, Hunters Point Naval Shipyard, which is in one of the poorer neighborhoods in the city, the focus there has always been economic development and opportunities for that neighborhood. At Treasure Island, people have always viewed this as a sort of a tabula rasa to try something different. The Parks and Recreation is obviously a component of the sustainability story, as is the housing, and I'm preaching to the choir here how we all know how badly housing and affordable housing is needed, and then jobs and economic development is obviously key. One of the first things that we did, and I give our development team and the consulting team that they brought in a lot of credit. They actually developed a sustainability plan that became the framework for all of the elements of the project. It basically is a comprehensive document that synthesizes all of the pieces of the project and how we can address issues of environmental responsibility. One of the fundamental things that the design team did, and I will say that we didn't start with this plan. This was an evolution over probably 4 years, and there was actually a threshold moment about 3 years ago where we doubled the size of the intensity of the project. We went from 3,000 to 6,000 units and actually became a much more dense transit-focused project. And when that happened, the design team actually recommended angling half of the streets to maximize solar exposure and to block wind. Treasure Island is actually one of the premier windsurfing locations in the bay, and that requires considerable wind. So this is the land use plan that we end up with. I don't have a pointer, but you can sort of tell from what is drawing versus what is aerial photo. The land that we will receive from the Navy one day is everything except two areas that are aerial photos. What would be the right side of the Bay Bridge is a Coast Guard facility and will remain a Coast Guard facility, and then there's sort of a jigsaw-shaped piece smack dab in the middle of the property. That's Department of Labor took 36 acres for a federal Job Corps vocational training campus, which is a bit of a planning challenge since they're sort of the hole in the donut. Probably the most important thing that we can do in terms of sustainability is having a dense development clustered around a transit hub. This shows the walking radiuses from this intermodal transit hub that I'll talk more about. And at that intermodal transit hub, you have the commercial core of the district. This U-shaped building that you see in the foreground is one of the historic buildings that will remain. The two others you can see towards the back, they're historic seaplane hangars. And the commercial district, this town center, will actually run from the ferry terminal, which is in front of Building 1, through this commercial street and into those historic structures, the first of which will have the grocery store. This intermodal transit hub will sort of be the nucleus for our transportation program. It will be where the buses go to both San Francisco and the East Bay. Ferries will travel to the ferry building in San Francisco. We'll have a bicycle library for residents and visitors, car share. These are things that are becoming common throughout the Bay Area. I'm just going to skip through this stuff. So this is an image showing this is you're arriving from the ferry from San Francisco, you're getting off, and this is the entry to the island. This was the entry to the island when the island was first built as well. Probably one of the most unique things that we're doing is taking the challenge of accessing an island, new development, which is in the middle of the bay with a bridge that's at capacity, and it's forced us to think outside the box and develop some tools to actually manage how people get on and off the island. Probably the most unique thing that we've done is we actually went and got state legislation that authorizes us to implement congestion pricing. That would be for residents that drive on or off the island during peak hours. They would pay a fee. We don't know what that fee would be. The idea is that there's a transportation agency that has the ability to change that fee as well as the on-street parking pricing to meet the program's goals. And that does two things. Obviously, it influences people's travel behavior. It also generates a set of revenues that we can actually put back into the transportation program to help fund the shortfalls, the natural subsidy in public transportation from ferries and buses. We've unbundled the parking economically. What that means is, I don't know if that's something that's commonly being done in Alameda, but it's increasingly being done in San Francisco, where when somebody buys a condo or they rent an apartment, they actually purchase or lease their parking space separately. So if somebody doesn't want to have a car, they actually don't have to pay the cost of the parking. Another thing that we're planning to implement is something that's commonly done in university campuses. When students pay their tuition, there's a portion that goes directly to a transit pass. That the idea is you spread the cost of the transit over a large number of people, and it's a dedicated stream of revenue for that transit. So we'll actually require each household to pay the equivalent of in San Francisco, a Muni Fast Pass, which they can use for the buses or the ferries, but whether they use it or not, it actually generates revenues.